Hey everyone, and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing a literature review presentation about education benefits and employee retention that I've been working on over the past several months for one of my PhD courses. So since we have to give a presentation for the class anyway, I thought why not use this as an opportunity to practice as well as share some of my findings about the link between education benefits provided by an employer and employee retention. With that being said, let's jump right into the presentation. Quiet quitting, the Great Resignation, labor shortages. You've probably heard terms like these or something similar countless times, and they all refer to the same common problem. Human resources departments across the U.S. are facing a dilemma. It is becoming increasingly challenging to retain talented employees that these organizations need to succeed. And it's becoming even tougher to retain those employees, to help them stay with the company, grow, develop, and move into those higher, more demanding positions that the company needs. So human resources departments are scrambling, trying to find some kind of benefit that will recruit, retain, and develop these employees. And they're searching for a win-win. Education benefits appear to be the perfect situation. You can attract employees who know that they can develop their skill set at your organization. As these employees learn and grow, they not only do better for your organization, but they promote. They make more with your company. It's a win-win for everyone. But there's a problem. The problem is that while these employer-sponsored education programs enhance recruitment and retention, they risk losing employees to higher-paying positions post-qualification. The idea is that if you're making this employee more attractive to your organization, they're also becoming more attractive to your competitors who are eager to poach these employees after you have invested in their training. So for human resources departments that are trying to tailor their benefits package, several research questions are particularly relevant. Number one, what is the association between employer-provided education benefits and employee retention in the U.S. labor market? What's the baseline association? Are there characteristics of the employees that moderate or influence that relationship? And then also, are there characteristics of the employer, of the organization that can influence that relationship? So with these questions in mind, there are three key themes that emerge. The first theme that emerges is social exchange theory, which views employment relationships from a cost-benefit perspective. We then have the competing forces of reciprocity and repaying a good deed with the economic concept of opportunity cost. And then lastly, we have some moderating characteristics that I think are important for us to discuss. So with that being said, let's take a look at social exchange theory. Social exchange theory was developed in the 50s and really takes the economic business cost-benefit analysis and applies it to social relationships. In our case, the employment relationship. And the idea here is that as we go to work, we have a number of benefits that we derive from our relationship as an employee. Salary, health insurance, even something like a casual dress code could be a benefit of that relationship. So if we throw one more benefit on top of that, an education benefit, for example, the idea is that it could only increase the value of the relationship and thereby increase the employee's motivation to remain with that organization. So it has been found over and over again that benefits increase retention, specifically non-salary benefits, and training itself has been studied and shown to increase retention. So if we have all of these studies showing us that training increases retention, why don't we just stop here? Well, there is a problem because employees aren't going to remain in a training status forever. At some point, they're going to complete their credential. And once they complete that credential, they get the benefit of that credential, whether or not they stay with your organization. So social exchange theory is great for understanding the baseline influence that education benefits can have on employees that are using those benefits. But how do we explain employees who stay with the organization after they complete the training? That comes down to a principle known as reciprocity. Now, this is found in cultures across the world, but was really formalized for our purposes in the 1960s. And what it says is that when a person, a group, an individual does something good, we feel the obligation to repay them. If my employer pays for my education benefit, then I'm going to feel some kind of desire to remain with them. It might be a strong desire, it might be a less strong desire depending on my characteristics, but I do have a baseline desire. But our friends, the economists, are quick to remind us about something known as opportunity cost. The idea that when we make a decision, we don't just evaluate that decision, but we also consider the next best alternative, the opportunity cost. In our example, I may want to do something good, something that I think would be noble and remain with my current employer, but what if I have a position that's offering me 30% more or full-time work from home? So we have these two competing factors, the desire to repay the organization and the desire to operate from a point of economic self-interest and look for external opportunities. So, which one wins out? Well, a 2022 study found that at a baseline, training does increase retention. However, portability and visibility of that training can substantially decrease the retention value. So think about it this way. If I do a training program that is internal to the company, I get a check mark on my personnel evaluation sheet and no one ever sees it, it's not likely to boost my external opportunities. On the flip side, if my employer pays for a degree or a recognized third-party credential, I can put that on LinkedIn. It's going to be easily identified by other employers, and it's also something they can use. So the retention value of something like that is going to be less than an internal training program. And that's the problem. Most of the current studies look at internal training programs, not at more transferable education benefits. So that's why all of this matters. And we'll get to that in a minute, but let's briefly look at some moderating variables. Highly qualified employees are generally less loyal. The idea here is that if they're already coming to your organization with lots of qualifications, they presumably have lots of other opportunities. So the opportunity cost for them is higher to stay at your company than someone that doesn't have those opportunities. Some employees might just be inherently more reciprocal, just might be a personality trait. Interestingly, physical space seems to matter. In-person contact. The more engaged an employee is, they feel more loyal to the organization than someone that is detached, perhaps someone that is doing telework. And then also, one study found that many employees perceive benefits to be self-serving. So if we're relying on the obligation to repay a good deed to boost retention, and the employees don't really feel that that deed was done out of the goodness of the employer's heart, that might influence the retention value as well. So bringing it all together, where does that leave us? Most important takeaway is that education benefits are unique among other benefits in that once you get that benefit, you retain the value independent of your association with the employer. So it's not something like health insurance, salary. When I leave the company, those things stop. The education benefit, once I've completed my credential, I have it forever. Employer and employee characteristics do influence this relationship, but in general, the relationship between education and training and retention is positive. But here's the biggest implication for my research going forward. Current studies mainly look at training, internal development programs, and as we've seen, those are less transferable, less portable than something like a bachelor's degree or a tuition reimbursement program. So if we take these studies that say training increases retention and we apply them to something that has more external job prospects, something that is more transferable, we're likely to grossly overestimate the retention value of that education benefit. So that is my presentation of my literature review. I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are. If you have any experiences with using an education benefit through your employer, that would be cool for me to know about. I've used my education benefits through my employer multiple times. It's something that I think is very important. I think it does show me that the employer cares about me, but I've also known other people that have used their education benefit and then immediately left the company. So it's interesting. I do hope that you found the video useful, that you got something out of it. I do appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.